Every person eventually reaches moments in life where a choice has to be made, and those moments reveal far more than our abilities. They reveal our values. It is easy to imagine a future where everything works perfectly, where every decision leads to success, every customer loves your product, and every opportunity turns into a victory. But reality never works that way. Real progress is built through difficult decisions, meaningful sacrifices, and the willingness to commit to a clear direction, even when you cannot have everything at once. Every successful person eventually discovers that excellence is never accidental. Whether someone needs an engineer, a designer, an entrepreneur, a lawyer, or a surgeon, people instinctively search for the very best, because the marketplace consistently rewards those who master their craft and create extraordinary value. Becoming that person is not a matter of luck or natural talent alone. It requires persistence long after everyone else has decided to quit. Most people stop when the work becomes uncomfortable, but that discomfort is precisely where exceptional individuals separate themselves from the crowd. The willingness to continue learning, improving, refining your skills, and embracing challenges long after others have walked away is what ultimately creates remarkable results. Entrepreneurship makes this principle even more demanding, because lasting success depends on understanding reality instead of believing comforting assumptions. Many businesses survive by relying on clever marketing, politics, or temporary advantages. Yet the companies that endure for decades are built on something much stronger: a profound understanding of the people they serve. If you truly want to build something meaningful, you must understand your customers better than anyone else. You need to know their frustrations, their aspirations, the problems they struggle with every day, and the economic reality they face, because only then can you create products and services that genuinely improve their lives instead of simply trying to sell them something. Creating value also requires building an organization capable of transforming principles into daily actions. Whether your commitment is to quality, innovation, customer experience, affordability, or exceptional design, those principles must guide every decision your team makes, because values that exist only on paper never build extraordinary businesses. They become meaningful only when they are practiced consistently. The greatest companies in history share one defining characteristic: they never stop learning. Instead of assuming they already possess all the answers, they constantly test ideas, seek feedback, improve their products, and adapt to changing circumstances. They embrace experimentation, scientific thinking, and continuous improvement because they understand that success is never a single achievement, but an ongoing process of learning faster than everyone else. Every breakthrough begins with curiosity, and the quality of your future is determined by the quality of the questions you ask today. Innovation has always started with someone willing to challenge assumptions, question conventional wisdom, and explore possibilities that everyone else ignored. The questions you choose to ask determine the problems you are capable of solving, and the problems you solve ultimately determine the value you contribute to the world. But curiosity alone is not enough. The most successful people also possess the courage to ask questions that others are afraid to ask, because they understand that every answer begins with a question, and every innovation begins with someone challenging what everyone else accepts as normal. If asking questions feels uncomfortable, begin with small steps. Ask one thoughtful question during a meeting, seek advice from a mentor, or start conversations with people whose experience you admire. Over time, you'll discover that many of life's greatest opportunities emerge from conversations that most people never have the courage to begin. At the same time, every entrepreneur, creator, and leader must eventually discover something worth dedicating their life to. Find a mission so meaningful that your commitment becomes stronger than your fear. When your purpose is greater than your comfort, persistence stops depending on motivation, because discipline naturally replaces emotion. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they should hide their strategy as if secrecy itself creates an advantage. In reality, the world's most successful companies openly communicate what they stand for. Everyone understands what companies like Nike, Netflix, or Starbucks represent. Their competitive advantage has never been secrecy. It has always been flawless execution. Strategy tells people where you are going. Execution proves you have the ability to get there. Before beginning any meaningful project, ask yourself 3 powerful questions. Why this? Why now? Why me? These questions create clarity before action. First, Ask whether the problem you are trying to solve truly deserves your time and effort. Imagine achieving complete success. Would solving this challenge genuinely improve people's lives? If the answer is yes, you are building something with lasting significance. Then ask yourself why this moment matters. Look carefully at what has changed during the past few years, and more importantly, consider what will likely change over the next 3 to 5 years. Technology, industries, customer behavior, and markets evolve constantly, and history repeatedly shows that the greatest opportunities appear when new technologies make previously impossible solutions achievable. Finally, ask yourself why you are the right person to pursue this mission. Which experiences, relationships, perspectives, or abilities place you in a unique position to solve this problem? You do not need to know every technical detail before you begin, but you must understand why you are capable of bringing together the people, resources, and vision necessary to make it happen. However, clarity alone is not enough, because every meaningful journey eventually reaches a point where progress becomes difficult. The excitement of starting begins to fade, obstacles multiply, uncertainty grows, and doubt quietly enters your mind. This is the moment that separates those who build extraordinary lives from those who abandon their goals too soon. The real question is not whether challenges will appear. They always do. The question is whether the difficulty you are facing is simply part of the process or a signal that your strategy needs to evolve. One of the best ways to answer that question is by asking whether someone else has successfully overcome the same obstacle before. Some challenges exist as filters rather than barriers. They are intentionally difficult because they eliminate those who lack persistence. Think about becoming a doctor, mastering a highly technical profession, or building a successful company. These paths are not demanding because success is impossible. They are demanding because excellence has always required commitment. When you recognize that countless people have already crossed the same valley before you, temporary discomfort stops feeling like failure and starts becoming evidence that you are moving in the right direction. At the same time, wisdom requires recognizing that not every difficult path leads to the destination you desire. Some dreams depend heavily on probability rather than predictable progress. There is an important difference between following a proven path and buying a lottery ticket. Pursuing an ambitious dream is admirable, but it must always be done with complete awareness of reality. If success depends almost entirely on extraordinary luck, you should acknowledge that truth, instead of assuming hard work alone guarantees the outcome. This is why successful people combine persistence with reflection. They refuse to quit simply because something becomes difficult, yet they also refuse to continue blindly when evidence clearly shows that change is necessary. Persistence without reflection becomes stubbornness, while constant change without commitment guarantees mediocrity. Real success comes from knowing when to remain patient and when to adapt. Unfortunately, maintaining that balance has become increasingly difficult in a world dominated by constant comparison. Every day, social media presents carefully edited versions of other people's achievements, making it easy to believe everyone else is moving faster than you. If you allow those comparisons to define your self-worth, you will either become discouraged or emotionally disconnected, and neither response helps you grow. Instead, learn to separate your identity from other people's opinions. Take your work seriously, but never allow every compliment to inflate your ego or every criticism to destroy your confidence. Feedback is valuable because it reveals how people experience your work, not because it defines who you are. Every customer, every supporter, and every critic interprets the world through their own expectations, experiences, and preferences. Their opinions provide useful information, but they should never become the foundation of your identity. This same principle applies to business itself. Money should never become the primary objective, because financial success is almost always the consequence of solving meaningful problems for other people. Entrepreneurs who become obsessed with making money often build businesses that struggle to create lasting value because they focus on asking, "How can I make more money?" The most successful founders ask a different question entirely. What problem deserves to be solved? That simple shift transforms everything. Once you identify a problem that truly matters, complexity becomes manageable because you can break it into smaller pieces. Identify which parts already have solutions, determine which areas can be improved, and focus your energy on solving the challenges that remain. One meaningful solution creates another opportunity, and one improvement leads naturally to the next. That is how extraordinary companies are built, not by chasing money directly, but by creating increasing amounts of value over time. When your attention remains fixed on improving people's lives, instead of maximizing short-term profits, financial success becomes the natural consequence, rather than the primary objective. Yet creating value also requires accepting one unavoidable truth. Life will repeatedly force you to make difficult choices. In our imagination, success appears simple. We imagine businesses that satisfy everyone, products loved by every customer, and decisions that never require sacrifice. Reality offers no such luxury. Every meaningful achievement demands trade-offs. Every entrepreneur eventually reaches a point where they must decide who they will serve, which principles they refuse to compromise, and what kind of future they truly want to build. Trying to satisfy everyone almost always results in satisfying no one. Every successful company eventually chooses whether it will compete on quality or affordability, innovation or simplicity, speed or precision. Great organizations become exceptional because they make deliberate decisions, accept the consequences of those decisions, and remain committed to serving the people they understand better than anyone else. The same principle applies to your personal life. Other people's opinions should never determine your sense of worth, because criticism often says more about the expectations of the person giving it than about the value of your work. Learn from criticism, but never surrender your identity to it. True success cannot be measured only by income, possessions, or status, because those are simply external outcomes. Real success is measured by the value you create, the problems you solve, and the positive impact you leave behind. Wealth without contribution eventually loses its meaning, while a life dedicated to creating value continues to influence others long after material achievements have been forgotten. Building a meaningful life also requires the courage to be different. One of the most common mistakes entrepreneurs make is believing that copying successful businesses will produce the same results. Every year, countless companies enter crowded markets, offering products that look almost identical to everyone else's, hoping that doing the same thing slightly better will somehow be enough. But if you are not the first to enter a market, you must become the most distinctive. Ask yourself what makes your work impossible to ignore. What unique perspective, experience, philosophy, or solution can only you provide? In today's world, differentiation is no longer optional. It is one of the greatest competitive advantages you can possess. Equally important is knowing exactly where you want to go. Imagine getting into a car without deciding on a destination. No matter how efficiently you drive, you'll eventually realize that movement without direction is simply wasted effort. Yet millions of people approach their careers in exactly that way. They stay busy every day, constantly working, constantly reacting, but never defining the future they truly want to create. The most successful entrepreneurs reverse that process. They begin with the destination, create a clear vision of where they want to end up, and then work backwards until every decision they make today moves them one step closer to that future. Along that journey, they also learn that their most valuable asset is not money, it is time. Money can always be earned again, but every hour that passes is gone forever. Every unnecessary distraction quietly steals a piece of your future, which is why high performers protect their calendars with extraordinary discipline. They understand that every commitment represents an investment, and every interruption carries an invisible cost. The way you spend your hours ultimately determines the quality of your relationships, your health, your knowledge, your business, and your future. People who consistently accomplish extraordinary things do not possess more time than anyone else. They simply make more intentional decisions about how they use it. Discipline, therefore, is not about working endlessly until exhaustion. It is about making sure that every day moves you closer to the life you intentionally chose to build. When your priorities become clear, your schedule becomes simpler, your decisions become easier, and consistency begins replacing motivation. Success is almost never created through occasional moments of inspiration. It is created through ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency over many years. Unfortunately, one of the biggest misconceptions about success is the belief that growth must always happen at maximum speed. Modern culture constantly encourages people to work harder, grow faster, and push themselves beyond every limit, as if relentless intensity alone guarantees greatness. In reality, sustainable success has very little to do with constant acceleration. The most successful entrepreneurs understand that consistency will always outperform unsustainable bursts of effort. A business that grows steadily year after year often becomes far stronger than one that expands rapidly only to collapse under the weight of unrealistic expectations. Sustainable progress creates freedom because it allows you to think clearly, experiment creatively, and pursue long-term opportunities without living under constant pressure. Ironically, the greatest breakthroughs often arrive when you stop desperately chasing them. When every decision is driven by immediate financial pressure, creativity becomes restricted because survival consumes your attention. But when your foundation is stable, your mind becomes free to explore bold ideas, test unconventional solutions, and take calculated risks that have the potential to transform your future. Many of history's greatest innovations were born from curiosity, patience, and long-term thinking rather than desperation. This is also why action matters far more than endless preparation. Too many aspiring entrepreneurs spend months writing business plans, consuming books, watching videos, and waiting for the perfect moment to begin. They convince themselves that one more course or one more strategy will finally make them ready. Yet certainty almost never comes before action. It comes because of action. Progress is built through small, consistent steps. Your first customer will teach you lessons that no business textbook ever could. Your first conversation with a potential client will reveal insights that months of planning could never provide. Every small action creates feedback. Every piece of feedback improves your judgment, and every improvement makes the next decision easier. Momentum is never created by thinking alone. It is created by moving forward, even when your first steps are imperfect. As your journey continues, you also begin to realize another powerful truth. Success is never achieved alone. Every meaningful accomplishment is built on relationships. Teachers, mentors, colleagues, business partners, customers, friends, and even competitors all contribute to your growth in ways you may not fully appreciate until years later. Your ability to communicate clearly, earn trust, collaborate effectively, and build lasting relationships is just as valuable as any technical skill you possess. No matter how intelligent or talented you may be, your abilities can only take you so far if people do not enjoy working with you. Intelligence may open doors, but character determines whether those doors remain open. Integrity, humility, reliability, empathy, and respect are not simply admirable qualities. They are long-term competitive advantages that continue compounding throughout your entire life. Continue looking inward to better understand your strengths, your values, and the impact you want to leave behind. But never disconnect yourself from the wisdom of those who have already walked the path before you. The most successful people remain lifelong students because they understand that growth never truly ends. Finally, choose work that genuinely inspires you. Find a mission that makes you excited to wake up every morning and surround yourself with people who share that same commitment to excellence. When your work becomes aligned with your purpose, discipline feels easier, learning becomes enjoyable, and persistence becomes almost effortless. What once looked like sacrifice gradually transforms into fulfillment because you are no longer simply working to make a living. You are building something that reflects who you are. In the end, success is never built by chasing money, status, or recognition. It is built by becoming the kind of person capable of creating extraordinary value, solving meaningful problems, and improving the lives of others. Stay curious, protect your time, think independently, continue learning long after everyone else has stopped, and commit yourself to mastering your craft with integrity. The people who leave the greatest mark on the world are rarely the ones who pursued success directly. They are the ones who dedicated themselves to serving others with excellence, improving every day, and creating value wherever they went. When you embrace that mindset, success stops being something you constantly chase and becomes the natural consequence of the person you choose to become.